My name is Henry. I'm an amateur bodybuilder.
My name is Victor.
Dr. Gareth Jowett.
Sarah Chandler.
The gym is my safe space, so I'll put it like bodybuilding is a place where I get to express myself, like just free my mind, clear my mind. Sometimes I'm stressed and the only place I want to be is just to be in the gym.
I think most people have a general conception of bodybuilders that they seem to be just big, angry meatheads that are dumb. But I think nowadays it's a sport that actually requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of science, and a lot of understanding of the human body.
My name's Sarah Chandler. I'm currently a senior lecturer in sport and exercise nutrition in the Carnegie School of Sport at Leeds Beckett University. I am not originally from the UK. I was born and raised in South Africa, and I qualified as a dietitian there before starting my PhD program here, which is why I then moved to the UK. Nutrition is usually a part of things, but at the same time, it's obviously, so you can't eat yourself to get new muscles. So in any physique or aesthetic sport, you still obviously find people who train incredibly hard to gain the muscle mass required. But I think what nutrition really does do is it extends the capacity of people to be able to do it better. So I think if we had to think about ratios, you'd probably say that if training and nutrition had to be divided up, maybe it would be 70% training, 30% nutrition. I might be a little bit generous to nutrition there.
My name is Henry. I'm an amateur bodybuilder, junior bodybuilder, and I just got into bodybuilding just from training, really. I think the environment I was training in as well, I was training in a predominantly bodybuilding gym when I first started training. So talking to a few people down there, my old boss was bodybuilding champion, so I think I was sort of encouraged to go down that route by people I was training around. And then ever since my first competition, I've been absolutely glued to the sport, so I guess I just sort of fell in love with it, really. I think when it comes to bodybuilding, if you simply can't do your nutrition properly, it's probably not the sport for you. And that's not to say you've got to be good at it straight away, because I wasn't. But if it's not something you're willing to do, then bodybuilding's not the one. The first few times you compete, you're probably going to hate the first few weeks after it. Or not hate, but you're going to struggle. So it's understanding what works well for you. What works well for me when I come out of a prep now is not just sticking strict to the same foods, but slowly implementing other foods back into my diet. Maybe having a sweet treat on an evening, an off-plan meal on a weekend, little things like that. When
it's in prep phase, I think that the idea of getting into the best body composition possible obviously means that the nutrition might be more sort of exact or specific. The idea is that there's a lot more riding on the idea that a person obviously has a very specific body composition that they want to get to. But also, believe it or not, we also notice that a lot of people post bodybuilding comp or any competition that has an aesthetic outcome, there's often almost like a binge episode, sometimes post competition, which also can leave a person feeling quite not unwell, but they don't tend to, it's not always, it's more of a mental thing rather than a physiological thing, and I don't think the body always likes the post-competition phase either.
The first few weeks after prep are probably harder than the last few weeks of prep, which sounds stupid when you say it, but sort of bringing yourself back to what you would call a normal diet, it can be quite hard. I've come out of a show before and just ate absolute garbage for the next week. Ended up putting about 8 kilo on in the space of a few days, had my ankles swollen out there.
So sometimes working with a person or an athlete like that, we want to minimize the flux. So not as much highs, or not as much deficit either before going into competition, but also not as much rebound when they leave competition as well. So they're obviously all different metabolic or physiological functions. So if you start off with muscle growth, I think that the idea is that what nutrition gives you capacity to do is if there's an exercise stimulus, then nutrition allows for us to then augment that exercise stimulus. So if you think that a standard resistance exercise training session will allow or stimulate muscle protein turnover, it just means that if we then have, in this instance, both carbohydrate and protein in that scenario, post-exercise, it allows for that to then be almost built on. So it augments that response, which is then when you allow for the building of new tissue as part of the recovery process. If there's damage, there's obviously repair that takes place, and then the presence of nutrition allows for that to actually then allow for the adaptation to take place.
You can't need a service every so often, so does your body. And if you're not recovering properly, you're not going to make as much progress. It's simple as that. You may as well just not adhere to a diet if you're not going to recover properly. Everything has to sort of be in line and in tune and all come together at once to work, if that makes sense.
My name is Victor, originally from Nigeria. Now I got into bodybuilding. Started off like while I was really, really young. I used to see them older ones around, just trying to show off power, showing off strength, and like you see them like nice bodies and stuff. Sometimes we watch wrestlings, we see guys with like big muscles and all of that, wondering how they ever got that big. So I think I just got interested in it. It's just part of me now. I think it's part of my lifestyle now. Like I can't do one whole week without going to the gym. I mean, at some point I was doing gym like 2 times a day. That was how obsessed I was. I was going like in the morning, then go about my daily activities, come back in the evening, just finish up my day with that. It's just an amazing feeling knowing that like I could be elsewhere, but I still prefer to like spend my time in the gym.
How do you approach training when you're getting close to the competition?
I approach it the same way I'd approach it year round. I think a lot of people will try and change their training technique when it comes close to comp, so they'll go higher volume, lighter weights. I like to stick with the exact same stuff that helped me get to where I was. At the end of the day, the way I look at it is if I can keep my strength throughout a prep, especially towards the back end of it, I shouldn't really be losing any muscle mass. And obviously the goal when you cut in is to retain muscle mass and drop body fat. So I keep the things the exact same. If anything, I try and hype myself a little bit more and keep my intensity through the roof.
For me, I've got like a structured plan. Today I know I'm doing legs in the gym. Tomorrow I know I'm doing this in the gym. So like I'm kind of well composed when it comes to like my exercises, and you can clearly see, unlike people who just go in the gym or maybe they just want to chat or like just want to meet up and
So I'm a physiotherapist, predominantly working in private practice these days, but with a background working in professional rugby.
From a physical point of view, what demands does intense training place on the body over time?
So I mean, you need to train at an intense level in order to get the gains that you want. You can get overuse injuries, but as long as you're building those training levels consistently, having intense levels of training is not a bad thing, in my view.
I think sometimes you can be so mentally focused on a goal that you can actually sort of let certain things slip, like recovery. Sleep was a massive one for me in prep. I think at one point I was averaging about 2 hours of sleep a night. I couldn't get it in check. So it's a weird one. I think you look at recovery differently depending on where you are in your bodybuilding journey. For me now, next time I go into a prep, recovery is going to be at the forefront. It's going to be the most important thing I look at, because what I struggled with was my mental. I wasn't sleeping enough. I wasn't recovering enough. And if anyone knows, sleep is a massive part of recovery. It's where you grow.
Certainly, if they aren't getting adequate recovery, they are going more likely to pick up injuries. Be that your sort of overuse tendinopathy type injury is possible, or it could just be that without that recovery, they're sort of tightening up more and then working less efficiently when they're training and picking up joint tendon injury like that.
And how important are technique, movement quality, exercise selection in reducing injuries in strength-based sports?
Movement quality is, in my view, has to be the sort of foundation. If you've got good movement quality, you've then got a base to build from. I think it's really important in younger athletes, particularly, that we ensure we teach them that first, with the ability then that you can put the weight on afterwards. If you've got good quality, you'll definitely be protecting yourself from injury.
Work smart and hard. Have a plan that suits you. If you have a certain goal or want to look a certain way, there's loads of different things you need to look at. Listen to your body. If you're going into a session and doing a movement every time and, for example, your shoulders tweaking or your elbows tweaking, the chances are that movement's not for you. So listen to your body and work smart. Don't always focus on the weight as well. Slow your lifts down is the biggest one. Most people will look at how I lift and think, fucking hell, he could do a little bit more weight than he's actually doing, but in the long term of things, your joints aren't going to keep up. So less is more when it comes to bodybuilding. It's about making a lightweight feel heavy and progressing with that lightweight. So all I would suggest is lift sensible, listen to your body, slow your reps down and progress slowly.
So I'm Dr. Gareth Jowett. I'm a senior lecturer in sport and exercise psychology here at Leeds Beckett University. As part of that role, I do teaching and research, so teaching undergrad and postgraduate students, and I also work with athletes and coaches in an applied capacity, kind of working one-to-one in sessions or in team environments. Some of the challenges that we have encountered within our own research and working with people on these types of issues are that the more that we tie self-worth to performance, generally the more negative impact that might have over that longer term. And obviously the inherent kind of quality of that within bodybuilding might be potentially quite problematic.
I think most bodybuilders tend to think they look a lot worse than they actually do, which is why you always talk about this body dysmorphia that everyone seems to have.
And particularly if we maybe have a dysfunctional view of ourselves within that context. So for instance, body dysmorphia or an issue like that, and our self-worth is tied to that, we're going to constantly feel inadequate, and therefore that might carry some inherent psychological challenges and maybe dysfunction that we might have to overcome. So, you know, potential links to things like depression or anxiety and so on and so forth.
How can setbacks affect an athlete's mental state?
It kind of depends on the athlete, right? And how well they're able to kind of manage that, and those features of personality, things like perfectionism, the motivation that they have, the reasons why they're doing what they're doing, is going to dictate the extent to which they're able to navigate setbacks.
I think you've just got to persevere in what you're doing, and as cringy as it sounds, trust the process. You are going to have moments of slow progress and even moments of regression, especially if you're wanting to take bodybuilding to the next level. So I think a lot of it is just trusting the process and understanding that if you're doing everything right, if you're coming in and training, you're adhering to a specific diet, it's impossible not to make progress. So be consistent and keep going, and you eventually will start seeing that progress. It's not just a case of go to the gym, do a little diet and step on stage. I think a lot of people sort of don't understand just how hard it is.
If you could describe your lifestyle as bodybuilder in just 3 words, what would they be?
Boring, tiring, enjoyable.